One of the coolest things about working with the Cobble skinks is everything we've learned we can now apply to future species that we're also working on conservation breeding programs with, and we feel really lucky to be able to have that knowledge. The habitat that the skinks originally came from on the west coast of the South Island, it is quite exposed. It's right along the edge of a west coast beach, which is quite a dynamic environment. Doc knew this small area was under threat and they may not survive the next big cyclone that came through. So the decision was made to capture as many as they could and bring them to the zoo for safekeeping and as an insurance population. So I remember when the Cobble skinks first arrived at the zoo. It was 8 years ago and there was only 35. We had never held them here before, so there was quite a bit that went into setting up their initial enclosures. This container here, that's got damp sphagnum moss in it, and that gives the skink the ability to actually go in there and burrow into a nice damp habitat if it chooses to. This here is what we call sand sheet, and that's just giving it a nice abrasive surface. It's important for things like their nails and also helping them shed as they move along it. The UV light gives them that ability to biophotosynthesize vitamin D, but this is providing the heat. When you look at the wild, it seems huge. But the reality is a lot of skinks and species use quite a small area as long as everything they need is in there. And so as long as we can provide water, places to hide, damp areas, dry areas, they might need rough surfaces or smooth surfaces, everything they would need in the wild, and then just put it all in a slightly smaller space. It helps us sort of care for them more effectively. We were very successful in the breeding and we ended up sort of expanding out of our original room into another. We've gone from that original 35 and we ended up with 148. They thrived and we were really happy with the breeding success that we had. We always knew the aim was to be able to release them back to the wild. They all got health checks by our vet team, so they got a thorough look over, make sure there was no injuries or anything that might be a problem for them in the wild. They had various tests done, some genetic material was taken, and that's going to enable us to way down the track, if they catch skinks and get genetic material in the wild, know if they're related to the ones that were bred here at the zoo. We want to know that they're there and they're thriving, and that some of the little juveniles we released have made it through to adulthood. And what we ended up doing was taking photo IDs.
So we're going for a close-up on the face. So the markings alongside of the face, usually from the front leg to the snout, are quite distinctive.
Cobble skinks have quite a diverse morphological traits in terms of coloration. The overall body colour can be different between the different individuals. So the patterns on the sides of their bodies are really useful to be able to identify individual animals from each other.
And then when they catch a skink in the field, they can look for, say, that unique shape to try ID it.
Having experienced it myself, when you're in the field and you've got a skink in the hand and then you've got all these ID photos and they're maybe not the best quality, it makes it a lot harder. It extends the amount of time that maybe you have that skink in the hand or are processing it. So it does ultimately, good photos lead to less stress for the animals in the long run.
Today we're bagging up the skinks for their release back to wild habitat. Each skink is going into a bag. So we're concertinaing the top of the bag and then folding it over just as an escape precaution. And then the cable ties are going to hold that nicely sealed shut for us. This is the first level, and then we actually go with our little false floor. We've got the dividers just to stop the bags moving around as much.
We're just putting a little bit of damp sphagnum moss. These are for our youngest skinks, which are 1 year old this month. Skinks of small size are prone to dehydration. So just as an extra insurance that they travel well, we're just transporting them with a little bit of damp moss to just allow that hydration in them. Safe travels, buddy.
The release day itself was it was a big day. We had an early flight from Auckland down to Nelson, And then we drove from Nelson to Westport and we met up with the dock team there and we got to meet all the iwi who would be involved. When we got the 35 into the zoo, it was thought that's all there was in the wild, that was the sole population, so that made them critically endangered, and it was super important to protect the ones that we had. Luckily, over the years, docs kept on surveying the region and they have found other populations of cobble skinks. It's not that they're so abundant they're not under any threat, but we definitely feel safer in the fact that the population's more secure with more than what we just have here at the zoo. So with them being slightly less critically endangered and DOC finding a suitable release site, it was the right move to then return them to the wild. The area that they were released into is not that far from their original site that they were actually salvaged from. Very similar to what they came from, although what they came from is not really there anymore, but it provides all those really natural hidey holes in the cobbles and different coastal plants for them to be able to take refuge in.
We have a saying within Ngai Tahu, mō tātou, mō kauri a muri ake nei.
Wow, well done.
It's not just what we're doing now for ourselves that's important, but ensuring that the future is sustainable for those next generations to come. You know, that's what kaitiakitanga and guardianship's all about, is actually being able to hold them in your hand and being able to make that connection and release them.
It's great that they're out where they should be and ultimately the project was a success. It's exciting to think of all that we learnt from the cobble skinks and how we can implement that to help and support other species in the future.
It gives you a real confidence when we get a species come into the zoo that we know we've got this like bank of knowledge of years of care of species that have similarities that we can draw from. It sets us up for success going forward with other species.